Hello everybody, we are back. This is part 20 of how to build a neck-through bass. Glad you're watching. We have this Pro Player 5 in the works. This has been the build that I've been showcasing for this video series. It's now time to map out the pickups, the bridge location, as well as the electronics cavities on the back of the instrument. The first thing we need to do is check and be sure that our surface is level. And that all looks really good. I don't see this thing rocking. There's no high points or low dips in there. If ever I do see or even feel something that's slightly high, at this point in the game it's very slight. So like right here I can feel just a tiny ridge. I'll take a razor blade and scrape and just take a small amount of material off. And generally that does it. If you have larger amounts of material that need to be leveled down, you might get a block with some sandpaper on it and go after it that way. You might get after it with the random orbital sander. Lots of different ways to do that. Okay, center line. You got to mark out the center line. I'll say it time and time again. The center line is the lifeblood of the instrument. If you don't have an accurate center line, everything is off. There's that. Now this is a 34-inch scale build, so I'm going to go ahead and mark out the 34-inch mark. What I'm doing here is I'm taking my fingertip and I'm putting it flush to the end of the ruler and putting that right up flush to the end of the fingerboard. There's not a nut stuck down here yet, so I can do that. Looking at 34, just put a little hash mark right there. Take your protractor, lay that out, get everything perfect, mark it. Now for the template that I use for mapping out my pickups, where is that thing? It has a little hole where I can see through to where the 34-inch crosshairs are, and I also have the line extended to where 34 is. So what I'm going to do, just for proper visual alignment, I'm going to extend this line that tells me where 34-inch scale is all the way across the instrument. That's all going to get sanded off, so don't worry about pencil marks. I'm not pushing very hard, obviously. This is a template that I designed for the Pro Player model. The pickup spacing is a little bit different than some previous models I've built in the past. The biggest difference is the neck pickup is just a little bit further forward. So as far as what you end up building, if you want to give this a try, you're going to have to experiment around with pickup placements and find out the sonic impact that has on your instrument. Of course, the type of pickups, the materials that are used, the company that makes it, all of those things are going to factor in. Your mileage may vary. I've settled on a few brands that really work well for me. And happy to help you locate some of those if you want to private message me and ask what works for me. Let's see, we're going to line this up. It's a good idea to take your time and carefully line up templates. And I'm simply using this as marking for now. We're not actually routing, but I use the actual template that I route with to mark. That way when I go to set this back on, we have our pickups mapped out. Just like that. Now, just as a backup, in case I sand something and lose the mark of where this 34-inch point is, I'm going to take this little punch and I'm going to put a tiny mark right there in case that pencil line goes away. That way I can use that and find my exact center and 34 all in one little point. I'll flip it over here. For this base, we're going to go ahead and use my my custom battery box. This is an acrylic template that I had made from the guy that does my laser engraving for my logos. He basically scanned a handmade template and made these. These are actual cutouts. They were laser cut, so they're very precise. What I'm feeling for is adequate thickness, but I don't want to stick the router bit through this contour right here. So I want to be sure that I'm far enough in to where the body is at its maximum thickness. Right? You don't want to happen this far into a build. So that's going to be far enough in that there's no chance of me running out of depth that's needed to accommodate for this cavity that's going to house two batteries. I use an 18-volt system for my preamp. So there's the outside, and then this is the inside, and I'm just going to trace that. All right, now for the electronics cavity on the lower bout. This is the outer. We call these cookies. These are the original handmade patterns from 8-9 years ago. These have a lot of mileage on them. They've been dropped. They have dings. They're not perfect, but these give me a good roundabout visual representation of where things need to go. This one is actually in pretty good shape now that I think about it. It's the inside one that's not so precise, but that's okay. I'll show you why here in a minute. Laying this down, tracing it. Things to be mindful of when you're designing your electronics cavities and the covers to go over them. You need to know ahead of time how far out your pickups are going to extend. And the reason that's important is because if they happen to be more lengthy pickups, if they extend into what is the electronics cavity, well, you're going to have a big gaping hole. Sometimes that could cause some noise problems. It's no big deal once everything is all buttoned up and the instruments together, but it's nice to have separate pickup cavities and separate electronics cavities and not have the two invading each other's space. It's more of a visual aesthetic thing for me. I have done some builds where the client requested a much more narrow body, and the very sides of the pickup cavities did intrude into the electronics cavity, just because that's the shape and the smaller dimensions of the body. Squeeze those two things together, and there were no noise issues. I made sure to shield everything up nicely. Okay, so this is mapped out. I know it's a bit hard to see. I'm going to flip this camera around. There you have it. There's the lower bout. Here's the upper bout. And then we have pickups and bridge location. Now from that, we're going to do one more thing. We know that this client wants 18mm spacing, and he wants a hip shot A-style bridge. So I'm going to dig around here and find my A-style bridges, and I'm going to map one out. Let's see, 5-string, 687. It's not in this stack. I keep all of my bridges down here in these cigar boxes. Here we are, very last box. Oh, that's B style. All right, let's find it here. Bear with me for one second, folks. This is digging through a lot of bridges here. Okay, maybe I missed it. I'm just going to use another existing bridge. Oh, here it is, right in front of me, 5-string A-style 708. I don't know why that was so difficult to find. Here it is. We're going to line this up. Where's my protractor? There it is. You do this long enough, you'll find out very quickly that it's important to keep a neat and tidy bench. Because when you can't find stuff, you spend 30 minutes looking for it. And you waste a lot of time that way. Very carefully, we're going to hold this still. And we're going to mark where these screw holes need to live. And while I have the bridge on here, I'm just going to double check. This is like quadruple checking at this point. Looking for side to side alignment. That looks good. Checking the low B string. That looks good. Pitch wise, we're spot on. That's what we want. So we have these 3 holes marked now. We're going to wrap this back up and put it away in its box. And we're going to mark with a little punch these 3 holes, and that's where we're going to drill. Very important to be dead center on these holes. You don't want a crooked bridge. Alright. That takes care of part 20. Things are mapped out. Now it's time to start making holes, so we're going to do that for part 21. Come back and see that video. That'll be a fun one. Alright, thanks for watching.